Hi there, welcome back to the playlist, or welcome to the playlist if you are just joining. In this last section, we're going to be finishing off by talking about how to articulate your skills, how to talk about your skills and experience in a way that will actually demonstrate those skills effectively, whether it's an application, an interview, and then get you that interview or get you that job, because it's probably something that a lot of people really struggle with. But there is a technique you can use that we'll be talking about that can help a lot. And that technique is called the STAR technique. Now, before I go into it, it's important to remember that whatever you are asked, whatever you are trying to demonstrate or answer, you've always got to talk through an example. It is not enough to say, yes, I'm good at this, yes, I'm good at that, yes, I have that experience. You've got to give me an example of when you've demonstrated that skill or experience. And what you do is use STAR as a formula. So imagine you have your example, you're trying to demonstrate a skill. You start with the situation. What were you doing when you were demonstrating this skill? And then the task, what were you trying to achieve? That can be no more than a sentence. You're setting the scene. Then you move on to the most important bit, the action. What you did, but also how you did it. That's the bit most people forget. Very easy to tell me what you did, but the how, the mechanics of how you actually did what you did, that's the level of detail we need, and that is what's going to get you over the edge. And then you finish with the result. What happened as a result of what you did? Preferably positive and as specific as possible. That will make a really strong example, and it's always better to give one well-developed example than lots of middling ones. And the thing to remember with this is you have to go into a level of detail that almost at points might make you feel embarrassed because you think you're going over what you might consider the basics. But in going over the basics, you show you know what you're talking about. When you're writing these things or saying them in an interview, you cannot assume any knowledge because they are not going to assume any knowledge of you. So to show you how this works, I've got some examples that you can judge for yourself. So for this, imagine yourself in the role of an interviewer and you've asked, can you give me an example, please, of a time when you've worked well as part of a team? And this is what they've come up with. I play football twice a week as part of a county team. We've won 6 out of our 8 matches. What score are you going to give it? Because that's what will happen. This person will be scored. Now, I've used 0 to 3 here. 0, no evidence. 3, a detailed account. What do you think, having STAR in the back of your mind, you would give this person? Now, I have known some people that would give it a 0. I've given it between a 0 and a 1, maybe a 1 if I'm feeling generous. They've given you the situation, they've given you the result, maybe. There's no connection between those two sentences though. And for all I know, this person could have been the reason for the matches that they lost, and they could have been on the bench for the matches that they won. So it's not a very good answer, obviously. I'm going to add 2 sentences which will immediately make it better. See what you think of this. So here, I've added, during matches, I listen to teammates for instructions and pay attention to anticipate their next moves. I communicate with the coach about how I could play better and share ideas with the rest of the team. What do you think that gets? Is it better? Is it stronger? How is it stronger than the previous example? Now, it can depend on the interviewer. It's probably somewhere between a 2 and a 3. It is definitely better. It's given me that level of detail that shows they actually understand what teamwork is, right? It's not perfect though. A way they could make this even stronger would be by giving me a specific example of a match that they won because of their team working skills and how their team working skills contributed to that victory. All the way through this, you've got to think the more specific, the better. If you have a hint of generality in your answers, then you need to work on that. And to show you what I mean from an interview standpoint especially, we've got some examples for communication here that I'm going to play.
Communication is vital to my current role as a volunteer coordinator with Rotary, and I routinely communicate with people across the organization on a daily basis. I am always clear and concise in my communication style and make sure that I am understood by those I am communicating with. Whatever channel I am using, whether it is email, instant message, or face-to-face, I make sure I am respectful and use appropriate language.
So that was Pauline, and you can see there, no real star example. You can tell it's too general because there's no specific example, and they're talking about communication is vital, it's really important, I do this all the time. That's what we want to avoid, because that says to me they don't really know what they're talking about. It's not specific enough, and they're just talking in vague terms about how it's really important and they're good at it. Now I'm going to show you a better example here, and you can see immediately how our next student, and these are all students, Christy V, will make it a little bit stronger.
While in my role as a volunteer coordinator for Rotary Manchester, I had to regularly use my communication skills to liaise with volunteers on the front line, as well as with those leading projects. I had to use a variety of different channels such as email, WhatsApp, and direct communication over the phone to coordinate activity for specific projects around fundraising, ensuring that everyone knew their role, where they were supposed to be and when, as well as account for any volunteers who were not available at short notice. Thanks to my excellent communication skills, these projects went very well. We managed to raise record-breaking funds to be shared with different charities that Rotary supports.
So you can see there, much better. In my current roles, there's a specific example there. So it is stronger, but there's still some questions. And while I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, okay, what project did you manage? Because she talked about managing multiple projects, managing multiple channels. What channels were you talking about? And then at the end, the projects went really well. How do you know they went really well? What is giving you that impression? What feedback have you got? What was the result? All the way through, while that is a better example, that's probably getting about half marks again, because it's not specific enough. It's that level of detail that we need. Now I'm going to show you probably the best example from Riley. This is a lot better, and it is a longer answer, but they're not talking for a huge amount of time. So just have a listen to this, see what you think.
In my previous role as a volunteer coordinator for Rotary, I organised last year's annual month-long Santa's Sleigh fundraising event. Each year, volunteers raise money for local charities by driving around Santa and his sleigh, collecting money from the local area. My role was to coordinate a team of volunteers for each evening during the week that the sleigh went out. I did this by communicating clearly with the volunteers, making sure that they knew what the expectations on them were in terms of when they had to arrive by, the length of their shifts, and their routes through the estate. I also provided my own personal number to each volunteer so that they were able to contact me quickly if they were unsure of anything. Through this effective communication, I was able to solve last-minute problems that occurred on the night. One specific example being when a volunteer was unable to make it to their shift only half an hour before it was due to start. Having collected everyone's details, I was able to quickly send a message via the WhatsApp group and found a replacement volunteer who was able to get to the estate within half an hour. Thanks in part to my contribution to the team and my coordination of the event, Rotary were able to break our previous record and raise £5,000 across the month, which we were then able to donate to the various charities that we supported. I also received very positive feedback from both the individual volunteers and the Rotary leadership on how I conducted the whole process.
Hopefully there you can see the difference. All the way through, giving specific examples, specific events that they managed, all the way through saying what they did, how they did it, quantifying things, giving me numbers. That is what we need. And really, it's not a huge example. That's around about 2 minutes. That's all you need to be talking for. You can do this in a paragraph, potentially, if you're writing it in an application. We often get the question, how long should an example be? It doesn't have to be huge. What it does have to do is hit these points. The situation, the task, what you did, how you did it, what happened as a result of that. That is what we are looking for. Now that's been an introduction to how this works, and there's quite a lot of detail there. But we do go into these things both for applications and interviews in a lot more detail on our website and on the specific playlists that are devoted to application interviews on the YouTube channel. If you are more curious, you feel like you need some more support, have a look at that, go onto our website, and of course, have a chat to us. We are more than happy to help. We can schedule application reviews, CV reviews. We can also schedule interview sims where we do a mock interview with you. So if any of this is worrying you, you want that little bit more support, come and have a chat to us. We are always happy to help. Now, if you do have any questions, I've put our email on the screen. It's careers.info@manchester.ac.uk. Like I said, if you have any questions, please do get in touch and we can point you in the right sort of direction. All of which brings me to the end of this playlist. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I really hope that was helpful. Obviously, I've talked all the way through about some of the other playlists that we have. Please do access those if you feel like you need a little bit more support, and come and have a chat if you need it. Hopefully, I will see you around the service, but any questions, please do get in touch. Thank you very much for listening.